Hi, everyone. It's Charmaine Hammond. Welcome, welcome. I'm so looking forward to today's conversation with Monica about fueling your business through sponsorship. Got to warn you, this is a topic I'm really, really passionate about. And we've had questions coming in through Facebook and email, so I'm going to be addressing those as well today. I want to interview Monica because we are on with Monica today. You should be seeing her beautiful smiling face on the screen. And I'm really excited to introduce Monica. She's an entrepreneur at heart. Monica Kretschner started her first venture at the age of 23. She started early, and she was also a founding employee of WestJet Airlines in 1995 and Enerjet Airlines in 2008. And ever since she hatched the idea for Canadian Business Chicks in 2014, Monica has been spreading the word and building excitement about her ambitious vision. She is the founder of Women of Inspiration. As all true visionaries do, she has thrown herself fully into building the Canadian Business Chicks community across Canada. She's been collaborating with like-minded organizations, developing strategic partnerships, and creating powerful platforms to help professionals connect. Monica is an entrepreneur, an international inspirational speaker. Sorry, I was just going to add more titles there for you, Monica. She's a master connector. She is a visionary. She's an Alberta flood hero, difference maker, nest creator, and an advocate for Homefront in Calgary, as well as brown bagging for Calgary's kids and women's initiatives. Monica is a proud mom to her young son and has a passion for travel, her family, and for life. Welcome, Monica.
Welcome. I don't know. We've taken up the whole webinar with my intro.
Well,
it sounded a lot shorter, but thank you so much. That was lovely. Thank you, Charmaine.
And, you're welcome.
I'm really excited for this because this is such a great subject matter. And Charmaine, you and I have had the opportunity to connect back in November. So just building on that relationship and getting to know you on a professional and personal level has been really exciting for me. And you've been the host for probably 3 different webinars for us so far this year, which has been fantastic. But I am learning every day from you and your experience, your professionalism, and we're so tickled to have you share this experience of sponsorship, collaboration, and strategic alliances. Because I got to tell you, I was like a sponge. This is information that everybody can utilize, right? From the ones building the relationships, so the ones that are the asking and the offering, both parties really benefit from this information. So may I introduce you?
Sure, that'd be awesome.
Okay, because I'm a firm believer that really, for those of you who have not met Charmaine Hammond, Charmaine has been in the business of changing lives for more than 25 years. But yet you don't look that old, Charmaine.
Oh, you're
Wonder Cream, Wonder Cream. This former correctional officer, yep, she worked in jails, and the corporate dispute resolution expert mediator now travels the world teaching principles of leadership, resilience, and conflict resolution. As a best-selling author of not 1, but 5 books and featured in 6 others, and Charmaine's also a professional speaker and has a tremendous success in finding corporate sponsors to sponsor her printing, graphic design, venues, travel, media, technology, hotels, and even her pet food and dog poop bags. This is crazy. She has developed sponsorship relationships with more than 40 sponsors and 60 business partners. She recently spoke on a book tour for Million Acts of Kindness, involved a 10,000-mile tour in a 32-foot sponsored motorhome, hotel sponsor for the team, and more than 40 businesses and retail chains raising funds in their stores, business and support to support this movement for Charmaine in the Million Acts of Kindness. Today, Charmaine will teach you how to find corporate sponsors to fuel your business. And so please help me welcome Charmaine Hammond.
Thank you. Thank you. And we have lots of people. I'm just looking on the list of people. Welcome Carrie and Lori and Heidi and Anne and Kendra, Sharon, Marianne, Shannon, Dave, welcome, welcome. I just want to let you know, if you've got questions that come up, we're here for about half an hour together. So I'm going to fill your brains with great content, give you some homework. Yes, homework. And feel free to put your comments and questions in the chat box. I've also put in the chat box the link to Monica's website, Canadian Business Chicks, so that you can connect with her. I know that Monica has a great membership program that doesn't even cost you anything. You can sign up and register as a member and get access to amazing information, as well as the events that she does. And make sure you're connected with Monica and I on all social media platforms, because Monica and I, as you heard from our introductions, are really big connectors and champions. And we believe in supporting people in what they're doing in business. So if we know what you're doing, it's easier for us to be a champion for you. Now let's rock and roll. In the chat box, I would love for you to put your questions in sponsorship. And I'm gonna actually start off by answering one of the questions that Marianne posed to me by email. So thank you for sending that, Marianne. And the reason I'm choosing your question first is because it sums up what sponsorship is. So when you think about sponsorship, lots of people actually think sponsorship is only for nonprofit organizations. Do any of you think that way about sponsorship, that you think it's just for nonprofits? Or are you aware that we can, as business owners, as entrepreneurs, that we can get sponsorship? And in fact, in many ways, we have a lot of different benefits and features that we can offer to brands, to the companies that we're seeking sponsorship from, that nonprofits can't. So I want you to think of yourself as an entrepreneur and a business owner. You are certainly in the game to play sponsorship. Now, Marianne's question had to do with the balancing of relationship. And you can see the question in the chat box that she posed. And she was wanting to know, how do you create a relationship that balances all the needs? The sponsor's needs and your needs as the property. And that's what we're called. When we're the people that are applying for sponsorship, we're called the property. So how do you balance the needs? Great question. And Marianne summed up tip number one right in her question. Sponsorship is a relationship. It's actually a marketing relationship. Would you agree with that, Monica?
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, I think that's probably the first thing
I have a hard time hearing Monica. Oops, sorry, I just lost you there.
Have you got me?
I do.
Okay. No, I know from experience that it's kind of interesting when you dip your toe into that whole sponsorship pool and not really having a lot of experience with it. The first and foremost is like, hey, how can I help support you? That's the first question really out of your mouth, is like, how can I help support you? What are you looking for? And that's the first step in sort of building that relationship, I find, above all else. So that's been my experience navigating down that road.
Well, with sponsorship, you really nailed something important there, Monica, because sponsorship, one of the common mistakes that I see a lot of entrepreneurs do is they come at it from not what you just suggested. They come at it from, how can you help me? And, you know, sponsors aren't on the planet to just serve us and help us. That's what ends up happening. But if we start the conversation with, how can you help me? Or I've got this great project that I know you want to be a part of. If we make it all about us, we actually close the door to a relationship. So I want to give you a couple of tips right away that you can do to start building relationships. And for those of you that are going to be joining us at Monica's event on May 4th in Calgary, I would love for you to actually do this homework before you come to the workshop, because I'll be able to take you to the next level if you do that. Here's what you do. I love LinkedIn, and I'm talking love, L-O-V-E with exclamation marks. I love LinkedIn because it helps us find sponsors. And here's what I did. I had no idea one day how connected I was to decision makers in sponsorships. I actually had relationships with some of them, Monica, and I didn't know it. I'd met them at different events and conferences and trade shows, got their business card, connected on LinkedIn, and you know, followed up, and that was sort of where it was left. Well, one day, Julie, who is my event coordinator and marketing manager, we went on LinkedIn, and I have about 7,500 contacts right now on LinkedIn, so a lot of people that I'm deeply connected to. Went on LinkedIn, and I did a search. I searched for my first connections with the title of sponsorship or marketing director. Sponsorship, marketing director, and community investment. Write those words down, everyone, because that's often the title of the people you're going to deal with in sponsorship. Marketing director or manager, community investment, sponsorship, obviously,
Right.
and sometimes even public relations. Those are the titles of these decision makers. So I went into LinkedIn. You're not going to believe it. I knew more than 40 decision makers from big companies on my dream
Wow.
list. And I was already connected. So here's why this is important, folks. You want to be connected to decision makers, and don't just send them that random connection, that random autofill with LinkedIn. You've got to find a way to big them up. So here's an example. I was really interested in being connected to somebody in Bell Mobility. And this particular sponsorship director had been involved in Clara's Big Ride, and I am a big fan of Clara's Big Ride. She was on a mission to reduce the stigma of mental health, and I loved everything she stood for. So I went on to LinkedIn, found the marketing or the sponsorship director, Tyrone, who I also noticed put out some exquisite articles on sponsorship, and I will send you all the links to his articles because this guy really knows sponsorship. I just sent him a LinkedIn message saying, "Hi Tyrone, it's Charmaine. I love what you guys have created with Clara's Big Ride. It speaks to me deeply. I would welcome the opportunity to stay in touch with you on LinkedIn." Notice I didn't mention me or what I'm doing or I want to know about sponsorship. Within 5 minutes, he accepted the LinkedIn request, and I simply sent a message back. "Thanks for accepting the LinkedIn request. Look forward to connecting." Staying in touch. 2 weeks later, I went on and found one of his articles. So I shared it on LinkedIn and I commented and talked about why this article was so powerful and that I had actually shared it with my entrepreneur and business circles. He came on and commented and also sent me a private message. And about 2 weeks later, notice this is not day by day. I'm spacing this out because I don't want to become an energy suck, as my friend Dr. Sean Duperrin calls it. I wanted it to be authentic and real. So 2 weeks later, I went on again and said, "Wow, I found another article that you wrote. I really love this. I'd like to share this in my business circle. Would you be okay with that?" And that's where the conversation started. And so I was able to start building a relationship, and that's what it has to happen for sponsorship. Sponsorship is a marketing relationship, and every time a company sponsors something in kind, you referred to that earlier, Monica, in kind. So for example, they're sponsoring things at an event, they're sponsoring a product or book launch, they're giving you services in kind. It all starts from a relationship, and it's got to be the right fit. Imagine having a sponsor that you don't even like their product. That's the wrong fit. That's a relationship. You just have to say, this isn't the right one for me. So we've got to build a relationship that takes place over time. And as Monica said earlier, it's got to be all about them. How can I help them? How can I serve them? How could what I do, how could the people that I'm connected to be able to support this relationship with this particular sponsor? And then once we start building the relationship, then that's when we want to start getting into a conversation. And those conversations are called discovery calls. I'm actually going to take some people through a bit of a exercise at your event in Calgary so that we can actually experience what a discovery call sounds like. See, this is what happens, Monica. People get really excited doing the research for sponsorships. We go on their websites, we do all the right things like checking out their press releases, checking out what other events or projects or groups they sponsor, checking out who they're influencing and who their influences are. We read their annual reports, their corporate giving reports. We go to events that they're already sponsoring. These are all the things you want to do. And we do all that and we invest a lot of time and energy. And then what I see is fear comes up. Do you know what I'm talking about, Monica?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Now we got to pick up the phone or do something with that research. And I can totally relate to that. That's where entrepreneurs often go and do more research. I am so guilty of it.
They're like, I'm going to go back there because I'm not ready for that yet. Yes. It's that fear of rejection.
It's totally the fear of no, absolutely. And here's the reality, folks. You'll get a lot of no's in sponsorship for many reasons. We've spent our money. It's not a good fit. For example, Canadian Tire. I love Canadian Tire. They are really interested in supporting children in sports. So if I went to them with an idea to support a business event, for example, that was going to serve engineers, they would probably say no right off the bat for good reason. It's not that they don't like the project. It's not a good fit. It's not their priorities. Yeah. So we've got to build those relationships, make sure it's the right fit, and then get past that fear to do the discovery call. And if you think about it this way, a discovery call is simply an inquiry call where you get the opportunity to learn more about that sponsor. It is important to know that discovery calls are usually about 15 minutes. So when you call somebody, time is of the essence.
Yeah.
And
I'm making a note of that actually, because that's crucial.
yes,
You don't want to take time away from their other priorities.
exactly.
Otherwise, you go the other way.
It totally can, because how you do something is how you do everything. And that's not my quote, but I love it. How you do something is how you do everything, is how the quote goes. And so imagine if you're on the call with a sponsor and you spend 7 minutes, how you doing? What's the weather like in Calgary? Oh, you know what, I heard about this, and how's that? Is it snowing? If you spend 6 minutes doing that, you have basically less than 10 minutes left for your call. Now, what could happen from the sponsor? A sponsor might say initially, wow, aren't they very friendly? But then as they're watching their clock, they're thinking, wow, where is this call going?
Right.
Is there a focus? Should I interject here? So we actually show sponsors and potential sponsors what we're going to be like to deal with by how we show up and how we handle those calls. So here's one of your favorite tools, your cell phone. When you go onto a discovery call, you actually want to set the timer for about 12 minutes. And that way, at about 11 minutes or 12 minutes, you're saying to them, wow, this has been such a valuable call. I'm really conscious of time here. And notice how I've slowed my voice down. You don't want to sound like you're rushing it. I'm really conscious of time here, and we've been at it for almost 15 minutes. I wonder if we might set up a call to get together again. Because really the whole call purpose for call number 1 is to get call number 2. A relationship doesn't happen in 15 minutes. And so we need more calls, more conversations, and ultimately, if you can get a meeting in person, all the better. So with Marianne's question, I've answered actually a lot more than just Marianne's questions, but finding the relationship balance, the win-win, the win for the property and the win for the sponsor, comes from the relationship, the ongoing communication, researching that sponsor. Because if it's so apparently different, Canadian Tire, for example, in an engineering conference, if you're going to have to work so hard to find where there's even a mesh or congruence in vision and what you both want, that you probably just want to say, let's move on to the next idea. So part of that finding the balance comes from really understanding the brand, really understanding that sponsor, and that comes from discovery calls and doing lots of research. So
Charmaine, I just have to say that discovery call is really key. And I know that, I've done a couple discovery calls myself, and I think that they're so value added. And before probably I went running out the gate to even start going down that road, because we have Women of Inspiration that we're just starting to actually do our 2nd annual in October. And we're actually at this point right now for sponsorship. So contacting the sponsorship that we had last year and saying thank you and keeping sort of that communication open all year. But now there's a bunch of sponsors that were not able to participate because the time frame was too short last time that I learned, right? And it was through those discovery calls that I learned that the window that I gave them was this big, but what they really needed was this big, right? So those are really interesting things. I mean, and yes, it's taken me a whole year to sort of build that relationship again, but I didn't find out about that unless, I had that discovery call. So, I mean, those are very, very valuable things.
Well, you've actually touched on what's something that drives sponsors crazy, and you learned this yourself, Monica, as you just shared. One of the things that really is frustrating for sponsors, whether it's a banking company, a retail store, a travel company, it doesn't matter. Any business that you're applying for some sort of sponsorship, whether it be in kind, something that they're deeply discounting or giving you in kind, or whether it's some form of a cash sponsorship or a combination of both. What we often do as entrepreneurs, and nonprofits do this as well, is we leave it way too late. So we go and ask them for sponsorship 6 weeks or 2 months or 3 months before our event or project. And what we need to know is they have long spent that money. They are already into next year.
Yes.
So all the sponsors that I've interviewed, and I've worked with a lot of them, as you heard from the introduction that Monica gave, I've got a lot of business partners, a lot of strategic alliances and collaborations, and many sponsors.
Yes.
And all of them that I've talked to about this, around timing, they all say, you've got to give us more than 6 months. In fact, 9 months for a big event is great, because right now we're already into our 2017 budget planning. So even though we might want to say yes, 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 we have to say, sorry, the money is gone, and now we're looking at 2017.
Right.
So to leave the time to be able to help work within their timeline. And that's a great question for a discovery call. How are your decisions made about sponsorship? What kind of timing do you need in your organization to process the applications or submissions and have the decision-making time? What do you need? Do you need a proposal? Do you have an online form? Is this something we can do back and forth by email? These are all the questions that we want to find out from a discovery call. And most importantly, in a discovery call, we want to find out what their goals are. What are the audiences that they're trying to reach? So here's an example. I'm a professional speaker. I travel around the world, and I am in front of corporations all the time. And also, because of one of my, well, 3 of my books happen to be about my dog, Toby, I'm in front of a lot of businesses in the pet world. That is not my primary speaking audience, but by the nature of my books and a lot of the nonprofits we support, I'm in the pet industry. And I have a lot of corporate clients that want to get in front of the pet industry. And they are happy to support me because I can bring them the audience that they're trying to get. Does that make sense, everyone?
Absolutely.
Type in the chat box if that makes sense, because that is really the key to sponsorship, is learning who they want to get in front of, what are their marketing goals, what message are they trying to communicate. Now, here's something interesting, Monica. A lot of people, and you probably see this as well in the entrepreneur circle, a lot of people would make an assumption that a big company, whether it's a bank, an insurance company, a retail store, that their goal would be to get more business, more sales, move more product. And I used to have that assumption too, until one of my sponsors in the relationship building process, I asked them the question, what are your marketing goals and who are you trying to get in front of? So remember, in my head, I was brainstorming all these ways I could support them get more sales. And the first words that came out of the sponsor's mouth was, we're not interested in getting more sales. I'd spent hours brainstorming, and I even started writing up pretend proposals about how I could get so I said, pardon? And they said, we're not interested in actually getting more sales. And I said, wow. And then, what are you interested in? And they said, we are actually in a position right now where we are trying to get in front of a new target audience. Our target audience has always been manager level people. But the manager level people that currently buy our product are all retiring. They're baby boomers. And we need to get friendly and build relationships with people that are under the age of 35. That's our primary goal, is we want to get in front of those audiences. And then I heard the music, because I speak to a lot of audiences that are under the age of 35. But see, if I had been so stuck in my head about they want more sales, I could have been driving this conversation to keep coming back to sales, and they really clearly said they're looking at a new audience. And I said, wow, that's so interesting, because as a speaker and as a consultant and a team building expert, I'm in front of these audiences all the time. I wonder if we could talk more about what you're wanting to get in front of these audiences with, and, more about the audience. Is it just under 35-year-olds, or is it under 35-year-old women? Is it families? If you can really get specific on what they want and need, then the ideas are going to start to percolate. And at the end of the day, what you propose to them is going to be a proposal that you've created together. One of my mentors and experts I love, and I'm going to shout his book out because I think every entrepreneur wanting to learn about sponsorship, I love this book, and it's called The Reality Check. And actually, Monica, Brent Baruti's the author, is right in Calgary, where you guys are.
Fantastic.
He is phenomenal. We hired Brent and his team to coach me to understand sponsorship, because when I started playing in it, I was clueless. I was just learning about it. And I had run nonprofit organizations for many years before opening my business, so I knew what it was like to do sponsorship from a nonprofit perspective. But I was struggling to change the mindset from business. And the book Reality Check, Brent makes a brilliant statement in there. He says, you submit a proposal when you understand the answer to already be a yes. And Brent also talks about not submitting generic proposals like gold, silver, bronze levels. We see those all the time. He says the proposals, Brent and his team say proposals have got to be customized. And, you know, every time I hear Brent speak, he just keeps drilling these messages in because they're so important. So we want to have a relationship. We want to find out what that sponsor needs, what their marketing goals are, who they're trying to reach, what jazzes them, what gets them excited, what charities are they supporting?
Yeah.
What are their philanthropic visions? And then what we want to do is find out kind of what they've been doing around sponsorship and find out some of the details of their sponsorship program. And then really look at exploring the conversation further by setting up another meeting or a phone call. Meetings are even better if you can get that. But again, the conversation, Brent says in his book that some of these conversations take place, as you said, Monica, into a year. They're not overnight decisions. But what I love is that as you build the relationship, it opens up many more opportunities. And we saw that. I'll give you an example. I just love to shout out 3 of our sponsors because I have learned so much from them. So on our speaking tour that you mentioned, Monica, we had a 32-foot RV motorhome,
right,
sponsored by Fraser Way RV. They have locations across Canada, and I love these guys. And I'd never stepped foot in an RV, Monica, before this. Never driven one, you know. And so anyhow, the funny story is, where did we find an RV sponsor? We went to where RV companies hang out.
Brilliant.
We went to the RV trade show and conference, and that's how we started building the relationship. And I'd love to share the story about Captain Kirk. Now, Captain Kirk, he was the gentleman who was working that Fraser Way RV trade show in Abbotsford, BC. And he came up and met Julie and I, and we just got talking. And his name badge actually said Captain Kirk. How can you not love that already?
I love it. I love it.
And so we just started having a conversation. And at the end of the conversation, Captain Kirk said, you know, I really love what you guys are doing with this motorhome and this whole kindness tour. And, you know, we have RVs that are pet friendly. Maybe I should just connect you to someone in our office. Yay!
Yeah,
and that's
such a big win.
Exactly. So that's the power of relationships. And then, you know, Fraser Way RV, when we figured out, we got our relationship going, we figured out what the sponsorship would look like. Fraser Way RV was able to utilize and leverage their powerful relationship with TELUS, the telecommunications company, who actually we have many contracts with. All my phones are through TELUS for many, many, many years. He was able to bring TELUS on to be our technology and telecommunications sponsor for our tour. Where did that start from? Their relationship with TELUS. Wow. So Marianne, I'm going way back to your question at the beginning, which guided this conversation. Relationships are key, and you'll find the balance in those conversations and what's important to both of you. And I have learned that when you go in with an open mind, generally sponsors have so many more ways that they can support you. But if you're closed and just thinking that you have all the answers, you're going to miss the beauty. So those are some tips I wanted to offer you today. Did you get some value from that, folks? And I'm hearing Marianne say amazing insight. And thank you for that. Yes. And any more questions? I see questions. Any more questions? Monica, was there any from you?
You know, I just want to touch on a little bit of something that was, you know, through a sponsor relationship that I'm building currently. And I just want to share a little nugget of information that I found was helpful. Was the response was, you know, geez, we had sponsored another event, and it was another women's event, and they weren't so sure that they got the results that they needed from that. So instead of taking that as a no, because the interest was still there, what that allowed me to do is open the door for conversation that said, so what results were you looking for? Right? And let's see if we can help support you in that. And you know, I always like to have a little debrief with our sponsors after that wraps up as well, to find out, how can we do this better? Were you happy with your results? You know, I think that's really important. It's like, okay, we always move forward in relationship, but I think that just if something did go kind of sideways, there's always a way of getting it back on track and learning from those mistakes or those challenges. And sometimes, you know, the little tweaks here and there that make a world of difference. So I just wanted to share that little tip that I've just currently used, and I'm excited to move forward with that one because, you know, we have a real great opportunity to earn and to build that relationship.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's so important. I call that a review and learn. We absolutely have to have those conversations. And, you know, just on the relationship piece, if something's going sideways during your event or sponsorship, or maybe you're not getting the numbers that you would hope to, a lot of times what happens is entrepreneurs and nonprofits, they keep that news to themselves. They don't want to affect the sponsor. They don't want to look bad in front of the sponsor. But here's the reality, is that sponsor could very well likely help you solve that problem.
Right.
And they can't solve the problem with you if they don't know the problem exists. And they would much rather find out ahead of time than at the event when they show up thinking there was going to be a lot of people there and there wasn't people, or maybe they expected way more kids if it was a community event and it was parents that showed up, not kids. Yeah. So we just want to keep them in the loop and always think about, if you were the sponsor, if you were investing money, time, or resources into your project, how would you want to be treated? How would you want to be communicated to?
Right.
You want to over deliver, and, you know, be careful of the promises you make. Sometimes entrepreneurs are so excited to get a sponsorship opportunity, even if it's a small sponsorship or an in-kind sponsorship, that they make so many promises. We can do this, we'll do that, we'll do daily tweets, we'll do this. And they actually spend more money on thanking the sponsor than they did being able to put it to the use in the actual project. So be careful of the promises you make and over deliver on everything. Just show them how amazing you are to work with. All of our sponsors have said to me, part of the reason they said yes, because they got excited because of my excitement, my passion was what they kind of said, we don't know what it's going to look like yet, but we just want to be a part of this.
And you know what, I think that from everybody watching and the pre-recorded version, for those that would like to actually have a live link, is that going to be sent out today too?
Yeah, it is. And I just put it up on the screen here that we've got, I'm going to be speaking about this on May 4th in Calgary. So maybe you want to talk a little bit more about that, Monica.
Okay. So Canadian Business Chicks, we connect professionals and entrepreneurs who are passionate about business and profit. And really, we have these Brekkie events, which we have, you know, I'm shooting for 100 for this Brekkie event. Like, there is no reason why the Calgary Petroleum Club downtown, I mean, it caps out to about 125, but we're going to go 100 on that one. And then Charmaine's going to speak and share this knowledge live, question answer, because there's lots of information that I've seen you speak 3 times already, Charmaine, that you can't capture in this short amount of time. But this was just a little bit of a teaser, so you can say, oh yeah, I can see how that's relevant to what I'm doing, so they can join you. So again, May 4th in Calgary at the Calgary Petroleum Club. Join us from Brekkie. The event starts at 7 a.m. till 9 a.m. Free parking on the street, which is really great, on the side streets until 9 o'clock. I usually tell everybody to sort of plug that Park Plus meter, and take the number down of where you park. So when you kind of see that time coming up, you can just make that phone call, plug the meter, and then you don't have to run out right away, because we do leave half an hour in the beginning of our events at 7 to 7:30, and then from 8:30 to 9, we leave those nuggets for networking. And then, of course, the program for our speakers is right in the middle. And let me tell you something, there's lots of business going on there. It's crazy, the amount of business going on. So we look forward to welcoming everybody. And of course, seeing you, Charmaine, live on our stage is fantastic. And the link is, if you've posted it right there, but you can also visit our website, CanadianBusinessChicks.com. Make sure that you sign up for our free newsletter. I know that you mentioned that it was a free membership. The basic membership includes the the newsletter that comes out weekly. And of course, a paid membership would entail, the business directory link, and those sort of member spotlights and all that great stuff, which I can more than happy to share with everybody at the event. But thank you so much, Charmaine. Again, it was lovely. I really enjoy all this amazing information that you share. I look forward to welcoming everybody to the nest on May 4th in Calgary.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I can't wait. And I look forward to meeting you all. Bring your questions with you. I'm going to be taking questions live on the stage from people. So bring your questions, email them to me, and let's see you in Calgary, May 4th. Thank you so much, Monica.
Thank you, Charmaine. Have a great day.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us.